Hello. So I'm making this video. It's kind of late where I am. It's almost 11 p.m. Uh, and I'm making this video because um, I've been brooding about the presidential debate. Um, Not just because of how painful of an experience it was to watch it, um, but the fact that that my takeaway from the debate seems to be very far outside the mainstream. Um, I mean, and I guess I can just go ahead and jump right into it. Uh, I thought Joe Biden did okay when I first watched it. Um, I thought Joe Biden did his best to maintain, um, how would you put it? He was trying to focus on policy. He was trying to maintain some contact with reality. Um, at times, he was actually calling out Trump for his BS. Uh, I mean, yes, he was looking very old. He sounded raspy and hoarse. Apparently, according to his campaign, he's getting over a cold. Um, he stumbled over. I mean, he stuttered, stumbled over his words. Sometimes some of the things he said did not make sense. Um, but I didn't think it was a train wreck for him. I thought it was, again, just okay. Um, and like okay enough um, that it wouldn't do him too much harm. That is not everyone else's perception. I guess I'll go ahead and pull up this independent article, which just gives you a general sense of what people are thinking right now. Um, who won the debate? Snap poll results following first Trump Biden presidential square off. Joe Biden's stumbling performance in the first U.S. presidential debate of 2024 left a large majority of American viewers believing that Donald Trump came out on top, according to a Snap poll by CNN. According to the News Network survey on Thursday night, immediately after the broadcast had concluded, 67% of viewers felt that the Republican presidential contender, 78, put in a better performance than the president, 81, who scored just 33%. For the head-to-head in Atlanta, Georgia, the same voters said they expected Trump to turn in a better performance than Biden, backing the GOP candidate 55% to 45%. So, again, here it is in graph form. Pre-debate, it's close to 50-50 with a slight lead for Donald Trump. After the debate, over 60% of people who were polled thought that Trump had beaten Biden. Again, 55 to 45 Trump Biden pre-debate, 67-33 Trump Biden post-debate. Biden, whose campaign subsequently said had been suffering from a cold, struggled in the debate, stumbling over his answers, rambling at times, or losing his thread entirely while speaking in a hoarse or raspy voice. The president mistakenly declared at one stage, "We finally beat Medicare." At another, his Republican opponent was left to respond, "I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either." Biden did later rally to rebuke Trump over his sordid personal history, saying he had the morals of an alley cat, and over his alleged suckers and losers remark regarding America's military dead. But he otherwise missed opportunities to hold his predecessor to account over his recent criminal convictions and chaotic record in office from 2017 to 2021, which ended with the failed assault on the U.S. Capitol by a violent mob of his supporters. The businessman, meanwhile, repeated his lies and falsehoods throughout, often failing to answer questions and having to be pressed 3 times on whether he would accept the election results, ultimately saying he would only do so if he was satisfied they were fair and legal. CNN said the results of its polls mark its shift away from the equivalent surveys in 2020 that revealed debate watchers felt Biden got the better of Trump during their two encounters that year at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. But on Thursday, 57% of those watching said they were left with no real confidence in Biden's abilities to lead the U.S., while 44% said they had no confidence in Trump to do likewise. And then that's the graph version of that polling right here. So like Joe Biden, pre-debate, people, about 20% of those polled had a lot of confidence in him. That went down to 14 after the debate. Some confidence, pre-debate, 25. Actually went up to 29 post-debate. No real confidence in him pre-debate, 55. No real confidence post-debate, went up 59. Donald Trump, a lot of confidence pre-debate, 35. Post-debate, 36. Some confidence, 18. Some confidence post-debate, 20. No real confidence pre-debate, 47. No real confidence post-debate, 44. So it looks like Trump's numbers stayed closer to each other, whereas Biden's were a little more varied. But all in all, I mean, this also just shows you one other thing, which is no one likes either of these candidates, and that's a cliche thing to say at this point. Like, everyone knows this. I mean, there's diehard like Democrats, who voted Democrat since they were 18, and their mommy voted Democrat and their daddy voted Democrat, and they'll stand by Democrats no matter what they do. And then there's the MAGA fanatics who will kiss the floor that Trump walks on. So I mean, there's people who, like, a few people out there who love one or the other. But I think, if you think about just average Americans, most of them are like, yeah, I don't want either candidate. I do find it interesting, though, that people had some confidence in him in Joe Biden pre-debate, 25, and then that actually went up to 29 after the debate, which is a greater increase in the people who had some confidence in him than the increase for Donald Trump. Although, in favor of, or I guess on the flip side, it looks like the people who had no confidence in him, that number decreased for Donald Trump, whereas it increased a good bit for Joe Biden. But if you just go, and I did this, if you just go to Google and you're like Biden debate, and you just look at the headlines, Biden's, this is CNN headline, Biden's disastrous debate pitches his re-election bid into crisis. NBC News, Biden's presidential debate performance sends Democrats into a panic. After Biden, USA Today, after Biden debate debacle, Kamala Harris on standby. The White House brushes off questions after Biden's age. Then the debate happened. That's from the New York Times. Biden acknowledges weak debate performance as Democrats questions swirl over whether he'll stay in the presidential race. I mean, this just goes on and on. Dems freak out over Biden's debate performance. Yeah, so. And then I was looking at not normies. I was looking at YouTube, like lefty commentators, and looking for their reaction. Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk said it's Jover. David Pakman, who's actually stood by Joe Biden very consistently, and has made the case very uh, passionately for Joe Biden, and intelligently, uh, acknowledged or said that, yeah, he thought Biden did a terrible job. Vosh said that CNN rat fucked us, pardon the expression. Those are the only real commentators I've been looking at. And then everyone on TikTok. I mean, I spend too much time scrolling on TikTok, but everyone on TikTok is pretty much like, yeah, this was a disaster. This was terrible. We're doomed. So I guess it interests me, like I said at the beginning, it interests me that I had a very different reaction. Maybe not even a very different reaction. I didn't see Joe Biden's performance as a train wreck. And again, I was trying to figure out, like, well, why was that? Is it something I'm missing? Is it something the mainstream is missing? Because what I worry about, I think, with the intense media fixation on how bad Joe Biden did, I worry that that's a. I gotta phrase this correctly because I don't want to, like, put on my conspiracy hat. I don't have a conspiracy hat, but I do have hats here. This isn't my conspiracy hat; it's just a hat. I don't want to, like, put this in conspiratorial terms, but in some ways, I'm suspicious of the media's the way the media is reacting, just because the media has a history of giving whatever Republicans say, whatever right wingers say. Oh, the media is biased. The media hates Trump. Blah 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 blah. The media has a habit of grading Trump on a sliding scale. I think it was Sam Harris's term, or just giving him a pass um, in multiple ways. Sort of just glossing over, a lot of the things he says, and in that way, he isn't graded as harshly as his opponent. And I think to some extent that happened in 2016. And I worry that that is happening now, with the analysis of this debate, because with Joe Biden, I guess you could put it like this. I think like Noam Chomsky said something to the effect of, "It takes a minute to tell a lie and 10 to decode it," or something to that effect. And that's sort of like what's going on here with Trump and Biden. I mean, when Biden's mind works, he is in the position where he has to debunk Trump's lies. He didn't do enough of that, clearly. And there was also no fact checking in the program itself, which I'm ashamed to say is not a thought that crossed my mind until after the debate and I was hearing people talking about it. That should have crossed my mind. That was such an obvious point. So a complete oversight on my part. But there was actually absolutely no fact checking during the debate, which meant that Trump was able to just consistently, as the Independent article emphasizes, consistently spew lie after lie after lie after lie. I think David Pakman said he told like 6 lies in his first um, in the first opening remarks that he made. Uh, like, and that was, I mean, and I in my like live commentary, in my live reaction, I spent so much time. I spent more time, in fact, screaming into the camera about what Trump was saying than I did talking about Joe Biden, just because I was getting so pissed about just the blatant lies. And it was just continuous. For 90 minutes, he was telling lies for the however many minutes of that 90 minutes he was able to speak. It was just pretty much every single thing he said was a lie. Um, and he gets away with it. He gets away with it. I mean, another thing. I'm sorry. I keep name dropping people uh, by quoting them, but yeah. I remember Sam Harris also talking about who was that libertarian guy? Was it Gary Johnson? Uh, and he forgot what Aleppo, the Syrian city, was. Um, like there was a question asked about he asked related to that, and he didn't understand, and the media just crucified him over forgetting Aleppo. Um, just totally, um, dogpiled on him. Just made it clear that like he's not a serious candidate. He's dumb. He's idiotic. He's ignorant. He's not fit to be president. Blah 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 blah. And then Sam Harris's point was like Trump makes gaffes like that all the time, constantly. And people don't bat an eye. Um, and that goes all the way back to 2016. I mean, he got away with saying so much garbage, so much hateful, ignorant bullshit, to be blunt about it. Um, and I mean, I guess it's just because if someone spews so much bullshit, I mean, you just can't focus on all of it. So I guess some of it just kind of ends up going under the radar. Um, but I guess all of this is to say that uh, Trump, the media, I think, goes easier on Trump for that very reason. He's consistently spewing bullshit. They can't fact check him on all the bullshit. And also, everyone knows he's constantly spewing bullshit. Like, that's just what he does. That's just his thing, right? That's his personality. That's his character. That's his normal behavior. So it's like people are like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, okay, it doesn't phase people anymore. Um, and some people in media, I'm not sure it ever did. uh, but when you have a situation where the guy who's the dangerous, malignant narcissist who wants to play monarch with American democracy, uh, when that person is constantly spewing lies to the point where it doesn't really phase people anymore, particularly the journalists that are supposed to be asking hard-hitting questions and talking and you know getting these candidates to tell them what they really think so the voters can decide who they think is best. um, that puts the other candidate, in this case Joe Biden, um, at a disadvantage because it's easier, I would say, to focus on his gaffes, his um, his unfinished sentences, his malapropisms, It's easier to focus on, his looks. It's easier to focus on his voice. You know, Joe Biden ends up being an easy target. Um, and then, I think a lot of the policy stuff, and I think I would still say, I mean, I'll get to criticizing myself in a moment, or amending maybe some of my analysis in the moment. But I would say, I think if you listened carefully to what Biden said about policy, um, I most of what he said, the majority of what he said, wasn't bad. Now, again, you sort of had to read between the lines sometimes. You sort of had to parse together what he was trying to say. Um, but for the most part, I could rearrange the words in my head when I needed to, and figure out, oh, he's roughly trying to say this. And, you know, a lot of the times it's like, oh yeah, I agree with that point. That was a correct point. Um, so I thought policy wise, um, you know, when I was focusing on what the substance of what the candidates were saying, I thought Joe Biden was fine. Um, Again, not great, fine. Obviously, the one of the worst segments. I mean, there were a lot of worse segments in the debate. One of the worst ones, of course, was when they brought up situation between Israel and Palestine, because then you just have truly both candidates are just bad. They are both just objectively bad on that issue. I'd still say Trump is worse on the situation, but there's one of those examples where like there's not even they're just both evil in that on that particular front. Um, but and this might be where I'm a silly person. um, People weren't focusing. It doesn't sound like a lot of people are focusing on the substance. Now, part of that was I think the structure itself. It's hard to. What the candidates had, was it what, like 2 minutes to answer, 1 minute rebuttals? I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but there wasn't a lot of time for the candidates to make their arguments. And so that sort of, for someone like Joe Biden, who was trying to just talk about policy, that also put him at a disadvantage, whereas Trump he can, say little sound bites and little catchy phrases that stick in people's minds. Not a wordsmith, but he's a showman. I think Ben Shapiro once called him an insult comic. Yeah, I mean, he is kind of like punchy in like a insult comic sort of way. A lot of stand-up comedians, you need to be punchy to stick in the audience's mind and entertain them. And so I think in my credulity, not even, I don't think credulity is the right word, but in my, given the fact that I was focusing on, or trying to focus on, the substance of what was being said, I sort of missed the picture. I missed the mark I missed thinking about style, I guess, is the long and short of it. I forgot that we weren't in, this wasn't like, an academic seminar where we were evaluating different people's arguments um, based on, you know, what they said. We were, and I even acknowledged this in the live stream. So it's like, I knew this at one level, but it didn't seem to creep into my analysis. Um, Debate isn't about facts. Debate, excuse me, isn't about substance. Um, Debate it's about rhetoric. It's about putting on a good show. It's about um, persuasiveness. Um, it's and you can criticize, debates for that reason. You can say that um, there's. I guess I don't know. I might be split-minded about it myself, but on the one hand, you could say there's good. I wouldn't disparage people who are on debate teams in high school, and I have a very limited experience with being on a debate team. That was in college, not high school, but I would say there's value in thinking about how arguments are constructed and like thinking about the um, thinking about issues from both sides. Thinking about like counter examples or counter arguments you could use when certain other arguments are presented are put in front of you. So there is a value to, I would say, the process of debate and the format. Um, at the very least, for the people debating themselves. But at the end of the day, what matters is how you look. What matters is the audience's perception of what you said. And in fact, I'm thinking now. There was one debate I was in, and it was about. Oh, don't even remember what it was about. Like net neutrality or something. And it's been a little while. Anyway, it was about a topic I knew nothing about. And the other debater on the opposing team, um, he totally mopped the floor with me. He had, and I think he had far more debating experience than I had, so he just had more practice at the art of it. But um, he really knew how to spin what he said in the right way. And then I was talking to one of my teammates afterwards who, well, one reassured me that, yeah, that was a very bad debate, Audrey. You did not win that one. Sorry, Chief. But also, he was like, yeah, I could tell the guy, your opponent, didn't know anything about this topic. He was making stuff up. And again, always being slow on the uptake for these things, then it clicked for me. I was like, oh, these debates aren't about being factually accurate. These debates aren't about maintaining contact with reality and getting the best possible information. They are about winning through rhetorical tricks. Through the art, as I keep saying, through the art of rhetoric. And I forgot that here. I forgot that in my debate analysis, in my presidential debate analysis. I forgot that this was a show. That the candidates are putting on a show, and that the goal of these shows was to look your best, And by looking your best, that will improve your chances with voters, particularly voters who are more or less undecided or like in the middle. I mean, because I don't think these debates, like if you're a MAGA, diehard Trump supporter, I don't think you're going to probably be less of a Trump supporter. Um, if you're a diehard Biden supporter, you won't be less of a Biden supporter. But I suspect there are people who are more sympathetic to Biden now than that are less sympathetic to Biden now, just because I think there's a bit less of a hive mind on the left than on the right. But yeah, it was a show appealing to people who had not yet made up their mind about these two these two candidates. And again, that just it didn't click with me. And that might just be like a personality thing, because I was not interested not in the show, but I was interested in what they were actually saying and why. Now, in all fairness to myself, I mean, it was painful to watch. Like I said, after I turned it off, regretted watching it. Both candidates, there were times when both candidates didn't make sense. Like one of Joe Biden's gaffes, he was trying to explain like the differences between like first, second, and third trimester abortions, and I actually wrote it down because and I meant to come back to it in the live stream, and I just didn't. I think he was talking about the first trimester, it's between woman versus doctor. Second trimester between doctor versus circumstance, and third trimester woman versus the state. And again, I wrote that down because I was like, I'm having a hard time understanding how he's breaking down those trimesters. I mean, I guess it's woman versus doctor in the first trimester, meaning like it's more or less the woman's choice what she wants to do, and she'll work with a doctor to get there. Doctor versus circumstance, I guess, means something to the effect of that's when you become a bit more choosy with when you perform or when you terminate a pregnancy. And then woman versus the state is, I guess, where there's very little terminations of pregnancy except in very extreme cases. That's my way of trying to piece it together. And so I guess I was trying my best to be as generous with Joe Biden as possible. But I recognize, not all viewers, particularly people who aren't super invested in politics or who don't pay attention to it a great deal, they wouldn't do that. They would more or less take what they were given, at face value. And so I think it just shook me. I believe that I was so, and I might have missed there. I think there was a point was meant to get back to, and now it slipped my mind. Having a Joe Biden moment over here, guys. I think it kind of shook me a bit that my perception was so against the grain, so out of the mainstream. I mean, I don't know why that particularly shook me, because I have plenty of opinions that are outside the mainstream. But I think it shook me because I was questioning, my how how much I was able to read the political pulse right now, how much I'm able to read the situation. And I began to wonder if I had if I'd been reading the political situation incorrectly for um, well, in this situation and maybe previously as well. Um, I mean, I don't have a background in political commentary or political science or international affairs or anything of the sort. Um, I mean, I don't think you have to have those things to engage with politics. Uh, but for that, which is to say, like, you don't have to be an expert, I think, to engage in politics. Um, Having said that, it's important, I think, to be, self-reflective and self-critical about one's own opinions and one's own analysis of um, politics, because it's easy for biases to creep in. It's easy for lazy thinking um, to occur, and uh, I, at least, don't want to, put out lazy opinions and biased opinions. Uh, I don't want to um, feed the uh, endless amount of um, ridiculous, the immense amount of ridiculous arguments that you find in the internet and just out there in the world in general. Um, and I mean, politics is it's a tricky thing. It's not rocket science by any means. But it takes some, time to figure out trends. It takes time to and some dedication to have all the right context. And um, obviously, when you're looking at sources, you have to take most of them. Well, take all of them with a grain of salt, because no one's perfect. No source is perfect. Uh, I think I'm definitely the kind of person, I don't like being wrong. I'm very adamant that I don't like being wrong, and sometimes I can be stubborn. If someone says I'm wrong, sometimes I can be stubborn and sort of double down in my position, um, whether or not I am wrong. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. But I don't want to be wrong. And I mean, to some extent, that's an unhealthy. That's an unhealthy perspective to have. I mean, it's normal. I would say it's very normal. I don't think people enjoy being wrong. I'm pretty sure there've been studies done, like, when you find out you're wrong, you find out you made a mistake. I think it lights up sort of the parts of your brain that also light up during, like, physical pain. Um, don't quote me on that, but I think something like that is true. Uh, but also, I mean, nobody's perfect. People make mistakes, and uh, it's okay to admit that you're wrong. Um, and I mean, part of the reason I've sort of started this channel was, and now I'm sort of getting off of the topic of the debate and more to the topic of um, my channel and my um, content. Uh, we'll return to the debate momentarily, but I mean, one of my goals starting this channel, it's been like 5 years, which is crazy. It was to chart my sort of thought process to chart my beliefs and opinions over time and to see how they change and evolve and deepen, or see how some of them remain relatively static across a wide stretch of time. Um, and I so part of that's just a for my own sort of narcissistic interest, but another part of it is for anyone who does care to watch me and watch my content, even especially over a prolonged period of time. I want them to see. Uh, I want them to see that in making my content, I aspire to a degree of authenticity, as it were. I'm not trying to hoodwink anybody. I'm not trying to, one up everybody and just be the, you know, smartest debate bro in the room and just destroy everyone, facts and logic, epic style, um, just to inflate my ego. Um, no, and like I want to try to um, be the sort of person that does care about facts, does care about truth, however we define that term, does care about um, putting forward rational arguments, um, and is willing to admit uh, when they're wrong, and course correct um, when that happens, and acknowledge mistakes or acknowledge blind spots or biases. Um, I mean, to some extent, this debate has made me like, and I think I mentioned this during the live stream as well. So I've been thinking about this in general, I guess, anyway. But I've been wondering if like political content is my forte. Um, Not entirely sure whether it is or is not, because I mean, I don't think I'm the most politically. Uh, I mean, I'm not the most politically engaged in my personal life, but I'm also not the most politically educated or informed. I try to stay relatively informed, but there's definitely gaps in my understanding. Um, and there's, I would say, commentators out there that are much better informed than I am. Uh, and so I guess the the fact that I was so this opinion was so outside the mainstream, my original perception of the debate, um, made me like question my my ability to properly analyze uh, politics. Um, like to some extent, I'm not sure I'm a hugely political person, which is like a weird thing to say because I'm obsessed with politics, and more or less have been since my like mid-teens, early to mid-teens. Um, and I think politics is important, and I again feel like I should stay informed. Like I feel like I'm morally obligated to. Um, and morally obligated to have opinions and to talk to people about them and whatnot. Um, and that's partly why in this last 5 months I've focused more on political content. I mean, I think politics has been sort of, I've talked a lot about politics on this channel. I mean, this channel has been, largely political. I mean, there's been other topics as well, but politics seems to be the predominant theme on this channel over the years. But I've really been like hammering home political content in the past 5 months, uh, because I think that I have a moral obligation to put my voice out there, um, and share what I think are, the best arguments for the positions that I believe in the hopes of maybe, changing a few hearts, a few minds, and informing a few people, and obviously the the romantic in me wants to think that, oh, and in that way I could make the world just a little bit better of a place. Um, is that true? And I mean, I'm not here to say. I'm not here to say that I've made the world a better place, either in my life in general or through my content, because I don't think I'm qualified to make that judgment. That I'll leave that judgment to other people. Uh, but at the same time, I'm not sure I sort of think politically. I'm not. I guess to put it another way, that's not my main. That's not my natural way of thinking. Um, I'm being a graduate student in philosophy. I am. I focus a lot more on ideas. I focus a lot more on arguments. Um, I focus a lot more on logical form and rigor, and I also focus a lot on certain sort of technical scholarly issues and problems that more or less have very little to do with politics as it occurs in the world. Um, which is another way of saying that. Um, I mean, putting it this way sounds kind of self-aggrandizing, and I don't mean it that way. But I'm almost too smart for politics, or I'm trying to think what's a less aggrandizing way of putting it. I'm could say I'm too autistic for politics. That would be that'd be an insulting way of putting it. But not that autism is an insult, but or that being autistic is an insult, but that'd be a self-deprecating way of putting it. That I don't think like the average person a lot of the time, and so that could lead me to being out of step in regards to politics. So I don't know. I'm considering taking a break from political content. I don't know. The state of American politics right now just seems very depressing. um, I mean, it's not been depressing. I mean, it's kind of been a bad situation for a long time now. Um, and I mean, I think back at when I was first getting into politics. I think back in when Obama was still president. And I mean, I was younger then, and I was I was much less politically informed then than now. But I think back at those times, and I'm like, those times are so simple. I mean, you know, you could the Obama years, and it's not to romanticize the Obama years. To some extent, I hold Obama responsible for the Trump presidency. All right, I mean the drone strikes. Um, you know, Obama not going far enough when um, Democrats had an overwhelming majority in Congress. I mean, more or less, Obama was a moderate Republican through and through. And I think that's pretty hard to dispute. But I look back at like the Obama years, and I'm just like, kind of want it back, man. Like I kind of want to go back to those simpler times. I kind of want to go back because it seemed, maybe this is like, and I don't think this is historically inaccurate, but it's I mean, I thought the Republicans were even unreasonable back then, but there seemed to be still, it was still in like the age of like, neoconservatism and like the neoliberal consensus. And I think neoconservatism is kind of strangely dying out. Neoliberalism is still here, but I think the neoliberal world order is being shaken by various things. I mean, not just right-wing populism and Trump, but the war in Ukraine and COVID-19 and all sorts of things. We just live in a different world. But yeah, I think back at, pre-2016, and it seems to me that the world just made more sense. The world just made more sense, and there were fewer batshit insane people in important positions. Like there were more Republicans out there that were still moderately in touch with reality. And that's the thing. I mean, you can be a diehard neocon evil bastard and still be somewhat in touch with reality. And that's sort of what the Republican Party was at one time. But it is that. And then, Democrats. I mean, the whole party itself has gotten much more conservative over time since the, Reagan Revolution and since Bill Clinton. And I mean, strangely enough, I think Biden's like, I mean, he's not a leftist by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. And as I tried to make clear in the live stream, I don't want to be a Joe Biden stan. That is not my goal. That's not my desire. I'm not here to be like rah Joe Biden. Joe Biden's the best. But I think, Joe Biden's presidency has been moderately successful. It's just that with trying to fix that lighting. It's just with the genocide going on in Palestine. That's the huge stain on his presidency, and will always be till the end of time. I mean, he'll go down in history, I think, as the supporter of this genocide of the Palestinians, and hopefully it doesn't truly end in a more or less complete eradication. But so I think it's easy to forget, I think, some of the good that Joe Biden has done just because of Palestine, and also because of his age, because of his gaffes. I was connecting it to, I guess, neoconservatism and the shift to from pre 2020 or from pre 2016 to post 2016, I guess, in the following way. To a small extent, and I would say it's a small extent, the Democrats have been mobilized by MAGA fanatics. Like, I mean, Slavoj Žižek, he actually made this point. He was like, back in, was this 2016 or 2020? Or both. It was one of those times. He was like, I think it was back in 2016, but he was like, yeah, I'm pro-Trump because he'll inspire the actual, social democrats and actual like left-wing people to take charge. That he'll almost shake up the system in the opposite direction that Republicans said he would. And to a degree, I mean, Zizek was right. I think he probably overstated the case. He probably exaggerated it, and I don't think that was a good reason. I don't even think, with hindsight, we could say that would have been a good reason to vote for Trump. But to some extent, that's fair, and so it's such a frustrating situation to find ourselves in, because the Republicans are just so bad, and Trump is just so bad that it makes the Democrats look like angels and saints by comparison. And it makes me want to support the Democrats even more than I ever have in my life, not because I like the Democrats, not because the Democrats aren't evil and aren't against the interests of the working class, but because they're the only political party right now that is still within the bounds of reality. So that I suspect that might mean, and I can't really think of specific examples off the top of my head, but I might have been a little easier on Joseph Robinette Biden for that reason. I might have let a little more slide over the span of these last months and even years, because of the threat that I think we're up against. And I mean, we want to be fair. I mean, we want to, it's important to critique our own side as much as it is the opposing side. Whether or not it makes us or them look good. So we shouldn't suppress information or hide information or minimize information if it makes our side look bad. I also think I wasn't. I hadn't really seen a lot of Biden footage in a long time, so I think I was going into the debate not sort of aware of his just general state of health and state of being. If I'd been watching more Biden footage, I think over these past months, I would have seen sort of the contrast between, say, Biden a little bit ago and Biden now. So that's one, I think, slippage on my part. But I guess to try to, wrap a bow on this point, so we're, as I said, we're in a situation where, I see the Republicans as really more of an existential threat, and Trump and MAGA as more of an existential threat than really anything we've seen so far. And as I said, I think I still think the Democrats are far, far superior than the Republicans. And I still emphasize, if you are in a swing state, please, 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 vote for Joe Biden. I'll talk about replacing him in a second. But if he isn't replaced, please, please, please vote for Joe Biden if you're in a swing state. I cannot emphasize that enough. That is what you need to do. That is the correct thing to do. And I'll stand by that, till my last breath. And I'll also stand till I'll also stand for this statement till my last breath. I will take. Joe Biden can be on life support, and they can wheel him in on Inauguration Day. He can flatline the second after he's sworn in. For all I care. I genuinely don't care. At this point, I do not. I would vote for a Joe Biden on life support over Donald Trump. I would vote for Joe Biden in a coma over Donald Trump. I would vote for Joe Biden's dead corpse over Donald Trump. If he dies even before the election, and then they puppeteer his corpse to, make him appear alive and to swear him in, and it's actually Kamala Harris calling the shots, but really they're just puppeteering his dead, rotting body. Or they can just puppeteer it until Inauguration Day. Then they can reveal, whoopsies, Biden died. We actually have Kamala Harris now. Okay, do it. I don't care. That's the level we are at. It's dire. It is dire, I would say. And so, I guess with all that being said, that doesn't excuse the fact. That doesn't excuse the fact that the Democrats now, they put us in this situation. They canceled the Democratic primaries. So do not forget that's a very important thing to keep in mind. The Democrats canceled the motherfucking primaries. We could have had primaries, and we could have had the other candidates. And see who may the best man win. If Joe Biden had won the primaries, okay. If someone else won, probably better. But so even if the Democrats are, more in touch with reality, and even if I would vote for Joe Biden's dead corpse over Donald Trump, that doesn't excuse the fact that the Democrats are once again playing chicken with our democracy. They did this in 2016. Looked how well that turned out. Um, Joe Biden did win in 2020. Back then, I still didn't think he was a good candidate. I didn't vote for him. And I got into arguments with people because I didn't vote for him, because I said I probably wouldn't, or I was thinking about not voting for him. And I mean, I'm not gonna beguile you with, personal stories but like, so if I seem like a Biden sycophant, or I seem like, I've like excused Biden a bit too much here and there, or I've not been properly aware of his declining mental and physical, or his declining physical health and his declining cognitive capacities. I just want it to be clear that I've been critical of Joe Biden from the get-go. I've been critical of Joe Biden for a really long time. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I didn't vote for him in 2020 because I didn't think it was worth it. I didn't think he would do anything. I thought his presidency would be a dud. I honestly thought he might be worse than Obama. Now that was wrong. He isn't worse than Obama. I think he's surpassed Obama in quite a few ways. And like I said, I think his presidency has been moderately successful. But I guess point being, like, the Democrats, they have a history of putting up really bad candidates, and candidates that their base, particularly young Democrats and young lefties, don't want. And so, if the worst case scenario happens, and and Donald Trump wins on election day or election night, the Democrats, once again, I would say, would have played a large part in that. They would be responsible to a significant degree. And that's what's so frustrating. And that's what's so frustrating and maddening and upsetting about the political climate right now. Is, we have an existential threat, I'd say, on the one hand, and on the other hand, we have corrupt, evil, center-right politicians who keep continually putting forward candidates that people don't like, that Democratic voters don't like, and when there are other options available. And I mean, it's not excusable. And I'm not here to excuse it. And I'm not here to praise, to sing the praises of the Democrats. I have none to give, except that, they're not completely insane, which isn't even really a credit to them. It's just like, yeah, duh, you should not be completely insane. Like, that's bare minimum, son. Now, when it comes to replacing Joe Biden, like I said, there's been a lot of talk now of replacing Joe Biden in the media, and then sounds like even from Democratic politicians. Now, what do I think about that? I would say I am at this point, suspicious of the argument that we should replace Joe. I mean, maybe the debate should have changed that for me, or should have changed this opinion for me. I think it has for some people on the left and some Democrats. I don't think it quite did that for me. even even when I'm saying that, yeah, I think I kind of missed the mark on. I think I over. I was too. Even with me saying that, I think my analysis of Joe Biden's performance wasn't fully accurate. I think I gave him more credit than he deserved. I said he did better than he did, even with acknowledging that. I just think it's too late in the game. I just think it's too late in the game. I think it's going to be very hard for any candidate to build up a rapport with voters enough to insert them this late. I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong about that. And then I would make a video saying I was wrong about that too. But again, going back to the canceled primaries, that's why the Democrats shouldn't have canceled the primaries, because they could have gotten a better candidate back then. And now supposedly everyone's panicking in an election year because they think, oh, Biden can't do it. Biden can't do it. He's too old. He's not fully there mentally anymore. And but if you'd been worried about that if you had truly been worried about that, you should have done something about it a long time ago. You should have done something about it a long time ago. Again, if the Democrats hadn't canceled the Democratic primaries, we could have found a better candidate. Most likely. But we didn't. And so I think more or less we have to stick out. We have to follow through with what we have. Not happy about it. Pretty much nobody is. But like I said, I just want Biden to get to Inauguration Day. And I think and my confidence is kind of declining with time, but he'll probably squeak by. Knock on wood. I don't have any wood to knock on, but I don't think with any candidate. I mean, Gavin Newsom, I've heard his name talked about. I forget who else. Pete Buttigieg. I'm not convinced that they would have a much better chance against Donald Trump. Because again, I think they really needed to build up that rapport. They really needed to get their name out there, and they needed to get in the game way earlier than this. And I think if you threw in, a random generic Democrat, it could work out. It could work out. I'm doubtful that it would do that much good. And I would worry that putting in a wild card could actually give Trump an advantage. Now, I guess the counter argument would be like, oh, well, Biden's a corpse already, so we're giving Trump an advantage here in this situation. And I mean, I could see that being the case, potentially, but uh, I think since both the candidates are well known, um, that worrying about whether a wild card would do well, that's out of the equation. And also, it's still early. I mean, we'll have to wait a couple weeks, to see actually how the debate affects the polling. But I think it's too early to say that Biden's candidacy is cooked and that he just can't do it. I think people have mentioned, a lot of incumbent presidents don't do well during their first debate, like Obama in 2012 and Reagan in, was it 84 or something? I'm forgetting the date for that one. But so that's not uncommon. And again, when push comes to shove, are the voters going to go for a convicted felon and rapist, or sort of like a doddering old man who, struggles to talk, but I don't think he's completely incapable of his job. I think he's just, again, he's getting old. He's 81. I mean, an 81-year-old shouldn't be president. A 78-year-old shouldn't be president. But here we are. Like the age issues are real concerns. They genuinely are. And I don't think either of them are really fit to be in the office, in the Oval Office. But do I think Biden's at the point of decline where he can't do his job, at least for a little bit? No, I'm not. And I mean, we could very well see him die in office and Kamala Harris take over. It's not a great situation, but I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it. I can't stand Kamala Harris. And I was watching her an interview with her about the debate, because this is when I first realizing, oh wait, everyone's disagreeing with me about the debate or Biden's debate performance. I'm gonna listen to this Kamala Harris video, see if she actually makes some good points. And of course she didn't. And of course it was all copium. It was all excuses. She even said at one point to Anderson Cooper, who was interviewing her, he was like, "I'm not going to talk to you about debating styles. We need to talk about what Biden did in the office, what he did as president." And it's like, lady, yeah, we can have that conversation, but Anderson Cooper's just talking to you about the debate itself, like his debate performance. Like, and Democrats, so many Democrats are saying that. They're saying, don't talk about debate performance, talk about policy. Of course, that was me. That was the error that I fell in. But these people they're just saying this for damage control. They're just saying this to sidestep the conversation so they can try to reframe it into something different that they think they can win, because they don't think they can win on the grounds of Joe Biden's debate style for this round. But anyway, I mean, I guess I bring all this up because I can't stand Kamala Harris. She gets under my skin. She's a sellout. But I'll take Kamala Harris. I'll take the first woman president coming about through the death of Joe Biden in office, and I'll take Kamala Harris as that woman. I'll take it. I don't think it can be much worse than what we have now. And she certainly can't be worse than Donald Trump, no question. She's 1,000 times better than Donald Trump. I mean, as would Pete Buttigieg, as would Gavin Newsom, as would a ham sandwich. I mean, that's not hard. That's a low bar. But so I mean, like I said, I'm thinking maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree on this one as well. Maybe replacing Biden's the right thing to do, but I'm leaning towards what I've been leaning towards for a while, which is we just have to see it through, and we just have to see it through. And I still think Biden has a slight advantage to getting elected. I mean, I think Trump's a good performer, as we've already said. So it's like, I think it's going to seem as if Trump has the advantage. Again, with the debate, Trump more or less won the debate because he's good at saying a bunch of random stuff, at least moderately coherently. Moderately seems to be the word I'm using a lot in this video. And so he's a good entertainer, and so he's a good entertainer. So I think it's going to look better in the debates on average. He's going to look better probably in the polls on average, because people kind of make a lot of superficial decisions based on that. But then when push comes to shove, will they vote for simply the entertainer, or will they vote for the man who didn't take away abortion? The man who has forgiven some student loans, though not enough. We'll see. I mean, I like to think they would vote for that man over the convicted felon and the rapist. But we'll see. I mean, I'm considering abstaining this year. I mean, I've been sort of harping away at I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, even though my vote isn't really important. But part of me wants to just sort of tune out of politics for a while, and that same part of me is like, yeah, I'm not even going to vote for Joe Biden. It might not even be worth it. I mean, I guess I'll have that back and forth in myself till election day and see what happens. So I've talked far longer than probably I meant to. I'm sure there's other points that I wanted to touch on, but I haven't. But I guess to wrap things up, I focused so much on substance when I was watching the debate that I forgot that it was a performance that needed to be evaluated as a performance. I overvalued Biden's performance because I wasn't looking at his style. I undervalued or underrated Donald Trump's performance because, again, wasn't focusing on style. I still say with substance-wise, Biden did just fine, but he didn't articulate it well. But we should be suspicious of a media that will, that I think is grading Biden harder on average than Trump, just because Trump is such a everyone's so used to his idiocy that a lot of things just fly under the radar. So keep that in mind when we're looking at the media's analysis of Biden and the media's criticism of Biden. And then, yeah, as for replacing him, I'm kind of leaning more agnostic. I'm kind of leaning more on the fence where, like, yeah, I don't really know anymore, but I'm leaning towards we just gotta, get him to November, and we just gotta get him sworn in as president. And yeah, and then go from there, and then maybe hopefully try to pick up the pieces after that. But right now, we just sort of have to make sure that the Orange Man does not get into the Oval Office. And I'm depressed and I'm frustrated and I'm upset and, like I said, I'm kind of wanting to take a break from politics. I'm kind of coming disillusioned with everything. Disillusioned even with my ability to understand the situation. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see both where this country is heading, and we'll see, where my channel is heading, and all the rest. Okay, I think I've extended this outro long enough. Follow me on TikTok at That Philosophy Bitch. Follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to get into Twitch streaming at That Philosophy Girl. There, and then subscribe to this channel, the Your Politics is Cringe. Watch my other videos. And yeah, so this is Audra signing off. Take care.